design firm, and I'm incredibly honored and grateful that I get a chance to speak to Kelli Lane a little bit more today. I got to know her a little bit this morning as we prepped for this at Genexa, and it's pretty inspiring what the brand intends to do. So I'm excited to do that. Kelli, maybe we could just take a couple minutes for you to introduce yourself before we dig right in.
Sure. So I'm Kelli. I have been with Genexa since January of this year. Prior to that, I did a lot of work in the brand strategy consultancy space with a company called Co-Collective, who I will always hold near and dear to my heart because they were the first place that I really I spent the better part of a decade or so in advertising in a lot of the big Mad Men type shops up and down Madison Avenue. And Co was where I really cut my teeth at moving further upstream into more of the business strategy, how you build brands from the inside out. And I'm really excited, and feel really fortunate to do that with Genexa for the past 11 months now. It's crazy to say that.
Yeah, it is crazy. So what I thought we'd do, we're at the brand's at-home event. So I thought we'd talk about the brand first and then talk about the at-home
Sure.
part of it, the direct-to-consumer second. Everyone on this call has a little soft spot in their heart for branding and brand management, obviously. And to me, a big part of brand management is differentiation and trying to establish a category of one, as the famous book often talks about, is sort of a holy grail. And you guys have tried to do that by defining this idea of clean medicine. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that means, how clean medicine is some real estate that you're trying to establish yourself and own in the minds of the consumers?
Yeah, of course. So if you think about all of the industries that have gone clean, right? There's been skincare and beauty and automotive and food and beverage, and I could talk for this entire hour about those industries and the leaders that, kind of the Davids that took on the Goliaths in those industries. And what Genexa is doing, right? We are on the path to doing, and that we have a lot in plan over the next few years. But we are essentially creating the same, using the same active ingredient that are in all of the medicines that we all have taken and have given our kids for decades. We are using the same acetaminophen, the same diphenhydramine, the same active ingredient, which is the reason you take the medicine, and replacing all of the inactive ingredients, which essentially make up anywhere from 90 to 98% of that formulation. They're there to color, to bind, to preserve, to taste. We're cleaning up the inactives. Right. And that's a really big idea, because if you think about how, a lot of the leading brands, the pain and fever medicines or the allergy medicines came to be, they've really not been innovated for decades. They were formulations that were created in the 80s. And we know a lot more about what clean ingredients are today and what we should be putting in our bodies. And that's what we mean by clean medicine, right? We're taking out all of the dirty ingredients, all of the ingredients that could be potentially harmful, and replacing them with organic, natural, better for you, clean ingredients.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for that. That's a differentiated message, but it is in a crowded space. It is largely an over-the-counter medicines and whatnot. Tell us a little bit about how you push that differentiated message into the market, whether that be, I would assume, some education. Why is this important? And how do you do that authentically and stay with your brand and what your founders had envisioned for the company?
Yes, so it might be helpful to talk a little bit about that founder story.
Sure.
The two founders are two dads, and when they both had their second children on the way, they sat down for dinner and they were talking about the medicines that they were being recommended to them by their pediatricians and what they had already been giving their first children, and it shocked them. They could not believe how red and how colorful and how the unpronounceable ingredients on the back of the cartons. And they, fundamentally, they wanted to create better options for their kids and their kids' kids and for communities at large. That's a really authentic story, right? It's a very true story to who our founders are and to how everybody at Genexa thinks and feels and the values that we all share. And so when we think about, activating the brand, so to speak, when we think about trying to get that message out to different communities, it felt, no pun intended, the most authentic way for us to do that was to be authentic, right? So we really started more of in kind of a grassroots manner and a strategy, and getting that message into a person's hands and a person's mind and heart, and explaining to them that, the propylene glycol that's in their kids' medicines that's in their cupboard is the poisonous ingredient that's in some really big leading brands that, I gave my kids a few years ago too, because I didn't know any better.
Right.
So we really think about that kind of on a one-to-one level, because the best, especially with medicine, especially with health, like you trust other people, right? People trust people. And so we really needed to think about how to activate from the bottom up and not just kind of launch a traditional marketing campaign.
Yeah. Have you found that being more challenging? Like given the current 8 months or so, obviously health is a big deal. Trust in your health and the information you're getting is an even bigger deal. Have you found that impacting anything in your marketing or your approach?
So the one of the silver linings perhaps of the pandemic is health has been more top of mind than ever before in the US and abroad. And I think the first step to change is understanding what needs to change, right? That's the knowledge part that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. It's education and getting people to have that same aha moment that there are other healthier, cleaner options out there, is step number one. I think it has been harder in some instances and easier in some ways than others, because people are spending more time, kind of going back to basics, if you will. They're spending more time with the people that they love and care with, because sometimes they're forced to stay in their own homes, and sometimes they're, prioritizing FaceTime videos with family members or friends that they, life gets busy and you forget to connect with people sometimes. So I do think that side of it, it's actually been a blessing.
Yeah.
Because the people that have been the most passionate about what we're doing are connecting with other people that they love and care about. But it's been harder for sure from a brick and mortar retail perspective, right? Like you see foot traffic's been down. We saw The Economist sent that report out a few months ago that the cold and flu season is flat this year because people aren't out and about, which is a good thing. We don't want people to be sick, but we also don't want people to be scared to leave their homes and scared to get sick. We should feel confident that we have medicines for when we do get sick that can help us get better.
Yeah. So that's a good segue. There's a lot of up and coming and very cool DTC brands out right now. And some of them have segued into in-store as well, with some of the bigger retailers. Harry's comes to mind and some others. But you do both. You sell direct to the consumer, and then you also have opened up some big channels with CVS and I believe Walgreens and some others. Tell us, one, I'd be interested just to hear about how your company approached those two channels, opening them both up at the same time. So why don't we start there for a second?
So we made the strategic decision before the pandemic was even a thing, right? A few years ago, to have an omnichannel strategy. We did not just want to be present in brick and mortars. We did not just want to be D2C. We did not just want to sell on Amazon or some of those other online marketplaces. And the reason for that was because consumers shop and need medicine in different need states, right? Sometimes you need it. This morning, my second daughter woke up with a fever and I needed to run to CVS and get more pain and fever, Genexa pain and fever, because I was out. But And so I needed it in that moment. I needed to have it available within a mile of my home to go get it and pick it up. But
Yeah.
if I'm just thinking about stocking up or being prepared or cleaning out, right? There's a lot of expired medicines in people's homes these days. Um, I have a little bit of time to plan for some of those other medicines that I may need. And so we wanted to make sure that we were letting the consumer drive where we sold, not relying on, the D2C trend or the kind of age-old pharmaceutical industry trend of strictly brick and mortar. And that's actually made us be more present, more readily available for consumers when they need us most.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I'm dating myself a little, but when e-commerce first came on the scene in the first place, there was always this talk about cannibalization. If you opened up an online store, would you be cannibalizing your existing channel?
Right.
And, right. And some companies thought, well, we have a catalog. If we open up a store, will that cannibalize each other? And the reality is the pie just got bigger. And I've heard the term, and you just said it eloquently, but I've heard the term a 360-degree brand, that it doesn't really matter where they're buying it. You just want them to be able to get a Genexa product whenever that need state happens to hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
One's not going to steal from the other. You're going to use whatever happens to get you what you need at that particular time.
And to let the customer tell you what they need and where they need it and when they need it, right? Like I'm not here to demand that everybody go buy this one thing at this, one outlet. I think that people shop, especially now in a digital age, right? Especially now with the pandemic, where you're relying even more on your digital apps and your shopping lists and your delivery systems. I think that it's more important than ever for us to let the customer tell us what they need, where they want to get it, and when they need it by.
Yeah. Uh, Tell us about, that's a good point about customer data and customer information and getting closer to the customer in general. How do you all think about that? And how do you, from a practical standpoint, how do you make sure that you're doing the best to maximize all this data that's coming in from people and making sure that you see it and get the right feedback at the right time and then act on it appropriately?
We have great partners around us, like I think most brands do, right? You get your agency team members who are experts in X, Y, and Z. And we are obsessed with customer intelligence, customer data. And I know that it feels cliche because I think everybody says that and wants to believe it in some way. But, our quest, our mission, the reason that Genexa gets up every day is to put people over everything. That is the true, like our founder says, I wake up every morning and ask myself, how am I doing that today? From supply chain decisions to ingredients to the sourcing to the packaging to our marketing to all aspects of the business. Mm-hmm. We're striving to put people over everything. And that drives how we collect data, how we treat that data, how we use that data. And I think, if you look at the back of our products, one of the founders' phone number is literally on every box. You can text him, he'll text you back. We've really tried to remove the barriers that I think have existed in pharmaceutical brands for decades, because again, health is probably the most health thing that you can have for you and your family and your friends. And I think that we just think it's really important to be opening those doors to have those conversations with customers and respond.
I think that's really amazing and cool. How do you see that once the company continues to grow and scale? Where do you see that perhaps playing out, or how do you think that you are thinking about sustaining that as the company grows?
Yeah, I think that, Max might be a busy guy as more people text him, but if you do text him and you do have a chat with him, you'll find that you're the one trying to get him off the phone, because he loves to connect with people. He loves to talk and just understand, what drives you. It keeps everybody in touch with the customer. Both of our founders have Founder Fridays, where they actually have a few hours blocked every Friday afternoon to call up customers and talk to them. And on our Monday all company meeting, our customer service team reads out reviews that people have given us that past week. So, I think that, you have to commit to it as you scale, right? It gets harder as you scale because you have more customers and more data and more commentary.
Yeah.
But you have to commit to it. And there have been some very successful big companies that
Sure.
have built their entire business around excellent customer service. And so I think if you commit to it, you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, what's your marketing mix look like? You're trying to push out some broad awareness and education tactics out into the marketplace. You have traditional retail and direct to consumer. Where do you place your bets, so to speak, in the marketing mix? Are you doing a lot of social? Are you doing a lot of paid media? Are you doing offline advertising?
So we optimize daily, which is
Oh, daily.
fun, right? Yeah, we are optimizing daily based on primarily in digital because you're able to get so much feedback so quickly.
Yep.
We're optimizing, the right the kind of message that people want and respond to, and taking, social discourse analysis into how we actually speak and
Hmm.
communicate with customers. But it's really about, offline, online. It's about supporting all of our partners. It's about coming back to that, what we were just talking about, being ready for a customer when they are ready to buy us, and making sure that we're building a marketing mix that, of course, builds awareness for the brand. Genexa is a relatively new company, and, we not enough people know about it yet. But also supporting the customers that do, and making sure that, they're getting, some first looks if we have some things available earlier, and innovating with them and listening to them as we think about our product pipeline and what we're actually going to be developing over the next few years. But the marketing mix is I was actually joking with one of our founders a few days ago that it's both science and art, right? Every good marketer knows you have to build from the science, but then there's always a little bit of art on top.
Yeah.
And that's actually where marketers, I think, feel most comfortable. They like being in that kind of sweet spot of like, this is intangible, this is intuition, this is something I just feel, it feels right, right? But you have to have a baseline of intelligence and data to build from.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. So, we've been talking about how to reach them wherever they need to be reached in whatever way they want to reach. Amazon is sort of indelibly in almost all of our lives every day. Seemed like I ordered something Sunday and it showed up Sunday afternoon. It was bizarre to me still, but it does happen. And you guys do some selling on Amazon. How do you think about it? I know I've heard various stories about Amazon, how to leverage Amazon as a channel, how to make sure that it's making up the proper percentage of your business, et cetera. How does Genexa think about Amazon?
It's a great question. We've, especially given past 7 or 8 months or so, where you look at just the reports of Amazon's quarterly earnings compared to some other retailers, and we all know what trajectory their business has gone in the past few months and will continue to go. We think of Amazon as a media platform because that's what it is, right? Like, yes, it is a sales channel, but more and more people are coming there to discover. More and more people are actually in the aisles and going to Amazon on their phones to learn about this product versus that product, right? In some ways, it's an education tool, a billboard that moves around with your consumer at shelf. We've spent a lot of time, with one of our partners who's a phenomenal Amazon agency, really fine tuning and listening to the customer again, and tracking what's working and what's not, and how are we more present when they need us to be. But we've really shifted our thinking in the past year or so to Amazon as a media platform, not just a sales channel.
So does that mean search? Just thinking about Amazon search, paid placement inside of Amazon, all of the above. How are you thinking? There's all sorts of tools in Amazon. It's so
All of the
vast.
above. It's all of the above. It's OTT video, right? It's leveraging. the power of Amazon that they have created. And I've done some brand strategy work with them in a past life. So I've gotten a little bit of a sneak peek under that hood. And they have built an incredible business, I think that it's leveraging that in the right way. I also, I listen to probably too many podcasts, and there are quite a few about how Amazon's trying to take over the world and they're putting all of these small businesses out of business. And I think there is some truth to that as well. So I think it's also just about, remembering in the grand scheme of things, like we don't want to live in a world where there are monopolies, and we want to make sure that we're giving small business a fair and equal shot. But at the end of the day, Amazon is a powerful tool for a lot of those businesses as well, right? They keep them in business in some ways. It is their exclusive sales channel. So there's a good and a bad to everything. Yeah.
If you can tell us a little bit about, let's shift to social for a little bit. There's, I know it's a little tricky with therapeutics and homeopathic space. That can get a little tricky. Sometimes you're limited in how you can market yourself. How do you guys factor that in, and how do you guys perhaps leverage social media to overcome some of the either education or skepticism or both, or maybe that doesn't come up for you guys?
No, it does. I think if you're active on social, it'll always come up. There's always someone that loves and hates what you're doing, right?
Sure.
We've really prioritized our own social platforms in the past 2 quarters, because if you look around at, especially what other pharmaceutical businesses are doing, but we don't even necessarily think of them as our competitors, right? We think about the other brands that are occupying people's mind and heart space. They're taking up the bandwidth that they have right now, which is more limited than ever. Those are our beacons. Those are the companies that we respect and we emulate and we analyze, because we want to learn from what they're doing and the passion and the following and the community that they've built. And so we've really prioritized our own social platforms as our community, the heartbeat of our community. It's where, again, you're removing all of those barriers. You have a one-to-one relationship with your followers, sometimes your naysayers. It's a place where you can show up and hopefully be your authentic self, and stand up for your beliefs. And I think that, we've found, coming back to that people to people strategy, right? The grassroots activation strategy, we really prioritized creating one-on-one relationships with average people. They're called influencers, I guess, in some ways, but they have, they're you and me. They have a couple of 100 followers, maybe, who are probably their, friends, family, and maybe some old colleagues and classmates. And making the time and space to have conversations with them so that they can help share our message, because they share our passion.
Do you do sampling with those folks too? Or how do you work?
We've done a little bit of sampling. Yeah, we've done a little bit of sampling. We don't just blanket sample. We don't just send product out there. We try to have a conversation. We always have a conversation first. And we've actually seen some incredible traction from, I just talked about those micro influencers, the you and me's of the world, right? But we've seen some really incredible traction from some very big name celebrities who we had a conversation with them. We sent them some product and they wanted to share it. We're not paying them to do that. But the Jessica Alba posted, and Gwyneth Paltrow, and some really big, Kelli LeVeque, who's a really well-known health and wellness tastemaker, I guess you could call her. Some really impressive people with platforms that they want to use those platforms to spread a message of clean and healthy living as well.
Yeah, and I would, as you mentioned, there's been a lot of clean and healthy products in other categories. And if you're already sort of an evangelist for that type of living, you probably have been waiting for stuff like Genexa to come out. And now you just want to, you can probably tap into that group as well, that already, you don't have to sell them on why it's important. They already know why.
Right. I wish I had a dime for every person that's told me this year, I can't believe this hasn't been done before. Or, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of this? Or how is this even a thing? Like, our medicine is the stuff that has bad ingredients in it. Like, that's the most counterintuitive thought in the world, right? The things that are supposed to make you feel better you would never think have ingredients that could harm you.
Yeah.
So it's been a really, I mean, I love those conversations because every time I'm like, I know, like I have two young kids too. I know, right? It's a crazy,
And that's why
crazy connection. It's a crazy connection moment, actually.
right. And that's why the founders are so passionate about it, obviously, and you and everyone else. Right. It's pretty great. So, assuming 2021 is better than 2020, which I
Here's hoping.
here's hoping. What's 2021 have in store for Genexa?
Quite a few things. I was just on a call this morning where we were talking about, how we're going to activate more of our relationships with healthcare professionals. We have a really robust pipeline that, we heard customers and helped prioritize what they want. And we also looked at just the dirtiness of different medicine categories. And we have quite a few products in the pipeline that we're working on that'll launch next year and the year after. And we're ramping up, really trying to get more people aware of Genexa and in Genexa in their homes, because we just believe so deeply that everybody deserves to know and deserves access to clean medicine. It's why our medicines are priced at the price points they are. They're not marked up like most better for you products. And we just fundamentally believe that we need to create better health for communities in this country.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. How have you? Well, you mentioned this. I'm looking through some of the questions that have come through here real quick. So just on time, we're almost out of time. Do you look at emerging media channels? How do they factor into your overall strategy?
So we have emerging social channels that our social team in-house we give them the freedom to experiment with. So we just allocate a portion of our monthly budget for them to have some fun. Obviously, they have to kind of, strategically think through that, but we want to give them some room to test and learn and pivot. And we actually did an activation on Animal Crossing last month, which was really fun. I am not a gamer. I said many times on the team calls, like, I just don't totally get this, but okay, like, all right, I'm trusting you guys here. And it was really successful. We had some really good feedback and turnout from it. We're actively experimenting with TikTok, and a pharmaceutical brand on TikTok is kind of an interesting thought. But we like to think of ourselves as a different kind of pharma. But yeah, I think our strategy of it, the question you asked, the way we think about it is there's always going to be something new and exciting, and you never know what's going to take off. So we like to think about it as, hiring really smart, connected, in touch people and giving them the room to experiment and kind of have fun.
Safely do it too, right? Like some of them aren't going to work either, right?
Exactly.
I don't just mean safe so they don't hurt you, hurt themselves. I just mean right. I just mean some of them aren't going to work out. Some of those channels won't work. So truthfully, I don't even know what Animal Crossing is, if I'm being honest.
It's a gaming platform on Nintendo Switch. I learned all about it the past month.
I've learned that on our little talk today. So I wonder, are we out of time? Is Pearl coming back on? Let me see if I can. Okay, here's another one. What has been your most successful marketing program to date?
So last month we launched a program called Ditch the Dirty, which was really an education program, right? It was aimed at, in a non-scare, we don't want to fearmonger, we don't want to freak anybody out, right? But we do want people to be aware of what they are putting in their bodies. And so we issued this challenge for folks to ditch the dirty, to actually go look at the ingredients that are in their medicines and assess for themselves. Are they dirty? Do you want propylene glycol, which is the poisonous ingredient that's an antifreeze? That's a leading question, right? Do you want red dyes? Do you want talc? Do you want these ingredients that are in your medicines if you don't have to have them in your medicines? And by the way, many of them are allergens and cause adverse reactions. So we launched Ditch the Dirty back in October. we had a tremendous response from it. And most critically, the intent of that program was, we believe so deeply in our product that we actually offered free medicine to anyone that that committed to ditching the dirty, right? So we gave a free bottle of their choice of Genexa so that they could try it without risk, and see it's the same effectiveness, it's the same active ingredients, like I said. And so we wanted to get more people into our movement, into this belief that health and clean is possible for all.
It's a really cool way to do the sampling as well, right? It's like versus a mass program.
Yeah, just handing it out. Well, no one's in any streets of cities anymore, so
That's
sampling
true.
programs are kind of no more.
No one would take it if you were just handing it out. No one would put that in.
Exactly.
But thank you. It looks like Pearl's on, so I want to thank you personally.
Yes.
It's been great.
What a great conversation. Yes. I mean, it's inspiring to hear about the great things that Genexa is doing. It's so necessary. Brilliant that you guys are giving it out for free, because the first time I encountered Genexa was at Expo West. And I don't know how people are going to be sampling things anymore. But that's a great way that's a great pivot. I mean, you guys have done a lot of interesting things, going to Animal Crossing and TikTok. Definitely taking some risks there, but that's great to hear that you guys are trying it and finding success.
Yeah, it's been fun. I tell the team, adversity can be fun if you can rise to it and find the fun in it. So it's been an interesting year for everybody, but the most important thing, I think, is to feel like what you're doing has an impact and to have fun while you're doing it,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Well, certainly you're doing it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks so much to you too. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have you both again soon. I know we're going to have a sort of spin-off of Expo West come March, since they won't have it in person. So hopefully we can bring you back then.